Welcome to our Trump Briefing Show. Today, we're diving into the remarkable farewell for Pope Francis, who was laid to rest in a simple yet meaningful ceremony in Rome. Hundreds of thousands of mourners, including world leaders like Donald Trump, gathered to honor his legacy as a compassionate champion of the poor and a unifier across cultures, with prayers in Latin, Mandarin, and more. In a touching tribute to his humility and dedication, Pope Francis was buried in a modest underground tomb at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, breaking tradition and emphasizing his values of simplicity. The procession was a vibrant event, with cheers, prayers, and church bells ringing through Rome, marking the start of 9 days of mourning and reflection on his influence worldwide. As the Church prepares for the conclave to choose his successor, global leaders and faithful alike continue to celebrate Francis's efforts to foster inclusivity, peace, and social justice. It's truly a moment of global reflection on his legacy and the future of the Catholic Church. Please continue to stay tuned for more detailed updates. Deutsche Welle reports that Pope Francis was laid to rest in a modest, private tomb at St. Mary Major Basilica in Rome, fulfilling his wish for a simple burial outside the Vatican grounds. The funeral, attended by hundreds of thousands of mourners and numerous world leaders including Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, was marked by a solemn ceremony led by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, emphasizing Francis' message of humility and compassion. The event was notable for its multilingual prayers, including Mandarin, and unprecedented inclusion, highlighting Francis' efforts to foster bridges with China and his global outreach. The funeral also symbolized his legacy of reaching the peripheries of the world through travel and dialogue, with the ceremony reflecting his commitment to social justice, humility, and unity beyond borders. South China Morning Post highlights the extraordinary scale and significance of Pope Francis' funeral, which drew over 250,000 people in St. Peter's Square and millions worldwide via live broadcasts. As the first Latin American pope, Francis was celebrated as the Pope of the People, with the service featuring prayers in multiple languages, notably Mandarin, symbolizing his hope to strengthen ties with China. The event was a gathering of global leaders, Argentina's President Javier Milei, Britain's Prince William, and others, underscoring his influence across continents. The funeral also marked a historic moment with the inclusion of Chinese-language prayers, reflecting his diplomatic gestures toward Beijing amid ongoing complexities in church-state relations. The ceremony's tone was one of hope and reconciliation, honoring Francis' lifelong mission to serve the marginalized and build bridges across cultures. Finally, Deutsche Welle reports that Pope Francis' body was transported to his final resting place at St. Mary Major Basilica following a large procession through Rome, watched by tens of thousands. The Pope's coffin, a simple wooden casket, was carried through the streets in a gesture of humility fitting his Jesuit vows. The event was attended by prominent world leaders, including Donald Trump, who was seated prominently, illustrating the global diplomatic significance of the occasion. The ceremony concluded with the Pope's burial, ending 9 days of mourning, and set the stage for the conclave where cardinals from around the world will select his successor. The process underscores the Church's ongoing commitment to social justice themes championed by Francis, with the next pontiff expected to influence the Church's direction amid diverse global challenges. The Toronto Star vividly captures the intense campaign efforts of party leaders as the federal election approaches, highlighting the high-stakes battles in Ontario and British Columbia. Liberal leader Mark Carney passionately campaigns in the Greater Toronto Area, emphasizing national unity and resilience against U.S. President Donald Trump's protectionist policies. Carney's fiery rhetoric underscores his commitment to defending Canada from economic threats, asserting that the country is more than just an artificial construct, it's a proud, united nation with a bright future. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre focuses his efforts in Vancouver, targeting swing ridings in Surrey, Delta, and Sudbury, aiming to capitalize on regional uncertainties and voter indecision. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh struggles to maintain momentum, rallying in southwestern Ontario and engaging with diverse communities, from Filipino celebrations in Vancouver to Muslim Eid dinners in Burnaby, as he fights to retain his party's foothold in key ridings like Windsor West and London. The Toronto Star also spotlights the crucial battle in Toronto's Parkdale, High Park, where Butala Karposh, the NDP's only hope for a seat in the city, faces stiff competition from Liberal Karim Bardzi and the shadow of her former party leader, Jagmeet Singh. Despite her popularity and her efforts to remind voters of the NDP's role in building Canada's social safety net, Karposh faces a tight race, with Bardzi leveraging his campaign's broad volunteer support and his experience as a policy expert. The riding's history of swinging between parties adds to the tension, and Karposh's appeals to protect Medicare and pharmacare contrast with Bardzi's emphasis on national strength and sovereignty, especially in the face of concerns about Carney's liberal policies and their perceived shift to the right. Meanwhile, Bardsley invokes Carney's stature to emphasize the importance of a strong, unified Canada, warning against divisive politics and the threat of a conservative government under Pierre Poilievre. In a dramatic political exchange, CBC reports that Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston publicly condemned Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet for calling Canada an artificial country, a statement that ignited controversy and prompted calls for resignation. Blanchet defended his remarks, comparing Canada's unity to Quebec's proud national identity and citing historical tensions, even referencing former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's description of Canada as a post-national state. Houston responded with a stern letter, urging Blanchet to reconsider his stance and take pride in Canadian identity, while Blanchet refused to step down. Amidst this, Liberal leader Mark Carney subtly addressed the controversy during a campaign speech, affirming Canada's sovereignty and rejecting claims that the country is anything less than a proud confederation built on shared ideals. This political clash underscores the deep regional and national debates shaping the election, as leaders vie to define Canada's future amidst internal divisions and external pressures. The BBC reports that Russia claims to have regained full control of the Kursk region from Ukraine, with Valery Gerasimov announcing the victory after 8 months of Ukrainian incursions. Russian President Vladimir Putin dismissed Ukraine's efforts as a complete failure, while Ukraine insists its forces are still operational in Kursk and continues its incursion into Russia's Belgorod region. Ukrainian forces have been retreating amid heavy Russian troop presence and drone attacks, aiming to create a buffer zone along the border. The Ukrainian military maintains that the situation remains difficult but that they are still holding positions, emphasizing their ongoing resistance despite Russian assertions of victory. The South China Morning Post details the brief encounter between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at Pope Francis's funeral in Rome, marking their first meeting since a heated dispute at the White House. Zelensky described the discussion as constructive, focusing on seeking a full and unconditional ceasefire and peace negotiations. Trump, meanwhile, expressed skepticism about Russia's willingness to end the war, criticizing Vladimir Putin's recent missile attacks on Ukrainian cities and hinting at the possibility of further sanctions. The meeting was symbolic, held in a quiet corner of St. Peter's Basilica, amidst high tensions and hopes for diplomatic progress, though Trump's remarks cast doubt on the prospects of an immediate peace deal. The Independent highlights Trump's hardened stance on the Ukraine conflict following his Vatican meeting with Zelensky, doubting Putin's intentions to end the war. Trump criticized Russia's recent missile strikes and suggested that Putin may not genuinely want peace, hinting at the need for additional sanctions such as banking restrictions. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Putin reiterated Russia's readiness for unconditional talks, despite ongoing hostilities. Zelensky's office expressed optimism about future peace negotiations, emphasizing the importance of a ceasefire, but Trump's comments signaled skepticism about Russia's sincerity, further complicating diplomatic efforts. The tension underscores the fragile and uncertain path toward ending the conflict. The Toronto Star reports that Trump's remarks after the Vatican funeral revealed growing doubts about Russia's willingness to cease hostilities, as he accused Putin of prolonging the war and suggested further sanctions. Despite a brief meeting with Zelensky, Trump returned swiftly to the U.S., leaving open the possibility of renewed diplomacy but casting doubt on Russia's intentions. Zelensky, on his part, remains committed to reclaiming territory such as Crimea, which Trump has acknowledged as effectively lost to Russia. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Putin's government expressed readiness for direct negotiations, though the situation remains tense and uncertain. Trump's comments and recent diplomatic actions reflect the complex and often contradictory efforts to bring about peace in Ukraine, with many obstacles still ahead. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.